What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to They Said We Said. This is John giving you my weekly spoiler review of American Gods. This one's for Season 3, Head Full of Snow. So this was quite an episode. Maybe more aptly named Head Full of Snow, Body Full of Fire? So guys, we start this episode doing a whole little pan down, funneling down through an apartment building, kind of showing the different steps. Of course, we're going to get the guy in the bathroom. As soon as it went to the roof, I already knew they were going to get a dude sitting on the toilet. I don't know why. It was very predictable. Nevertheless, we get down to Mrs. Fideo's house, and she's just this nice 68-year-old lady, just trying to make some soup, maybe some ratatouille for her family that's coming over. And she gets a knock at the door, and this mysterious man is there. Who is this man? Well, so she's got some miles on her. She knows, she's been around the block. She's just like, come on in, rob the house. I don't care. Here's the TV. Here's my smartphone. But guess what? Unfortunately, it's not a robber or a thief. It is the god Anubis telling her that she has already passed away and that he's ready to take her up to the afterlife. So let me just say right now, this is kind of how you die if you believe in Egyptian, lore or religion. That's not half bad. You got kind of a long climb up the stairs to the scales, but as soon as you get up there, it's absolutely beautiful. It's very dreamlike. You're in this nice deserted dune area with a very over stylized starry night, and she gets this sit down and have a picnic with Anubis. And Anubis is the god. He's a jackal. He's the jackal god, and he's the one that's supposed to take you from when you die to the afterlife. And he's supposed to put you on the scales. And I guess the scales is you get your heart ripped out, which as she stated, she was using that, but I guess not anymore. And you get to weigh your worries or your troubles of your heart against a feather. I guess what the story goes, if your heart is more burdened and worried and whatnot, then your heart will weigh more than the feather, and then you don't get to go to the good place. So hers was on an equal scale, so she got to pick what, door number 1, 2, 3, or 4, and she couldn't pick. She just didn't want to see her abusive father again, so she let the nice boy Anubis pick, which he did, and her disgusting hairless cat pushed her out the door, and, we don't know the fate of poor Miss Fideo, I don't know. But she's probably going to a nice afterlife. So that was a really cool stylized sequence. I like seeing the character of Anubis. He was a very calming, nice god, even though he's the guy that's taking you to your final checkout. So we're back to Shadow Moon's last night on Earth. Basically, he did lose the checker match with the highest stakes possible to Chernobog, and he's just kind of, I don't blame him. I probably wouldn't be able to sleep either. However, he does go up the stairs, and I almost thought that he was going to see Anubis or something, and maybe he was going to tell him a way out of this situation, because it was kind of similar to the last scene where he was going up kind of the storm ladder or whatever. I don't know. I've never been to New York, and it's actually a beautiful scene. Again, very stylized. This whole thing was just oozing with style. It was all very ultra realistic. It was very dreamlike, and this scene was no exception. And we get to meet the third sister, and she, the one that was hidden in the room, which, we thought, or at least I thought, could have been just like a giant beast. Who knows? It could have been a cave troll or something. But she's actually a very beautiful, very well put together young lady. And she explains to Shadow Moon that it is the sister's job to kind of make sure that these horrible things in the sky don't get out. And she offers Shadow Moon a way out of the wager that he had with Chernobog with the chess match. And basically, she plucked the moon right out of the sky and gave it to him. And she even called him out and said, you used to have the sun. And which I guess the sun coin is the one that he got from Mad Sweeney, which he just kind of threw on Laura's grave. More on that later. But now he has the moon coin. All for the small price of a kiss. That's not a mad deal. The moon for a kiss from a very pretty young lady? Hey. So with his newfound gumption on life, he goes downstairs and challenges Chernobog to another game, double or nothing. He wins, Chernobog has to go with them, and if he loses, so he kind of goads him into thinking that he's not strong enough to kill Shadow Moon with one hit of the hammer. So he takes the bait, they play the game to a lot different outcome. All while Wednesday and Cloris Leachman's character are kind of dancing in the rain, having a nice little romantic moment. He's brushing her hair, they're making out. Everyone's just happy. Everyone's kind of hooking up in this episode. And that theme doesn't stop. In the morning, Wednesday doesn't even mention that, you know, it's time for Shadow Moon to go get his brains bashed in. So, you know, he just kind of knew or kind of had a plan that it was going to all work out in the end. That's just kind of how Wednesday is. And he informed Shadow Moon that they're going to go rob a bank. Well, before we get to see the great heist, we get to flash over to Mad Sweeney, who is still passed out in the bathroom after the bar fight with Shadow Moon. The bartender is kind of, you know, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, in the most aggressive form of fashion, and actually shoots the beer bottle he's drinking. He gets up and he takes off. He's kind of a hopeless wanderer on the road until a very nice gentleman picks him up off the side of the road, played by Scott Thompson from Kids in the Hall. I was super excited to see him. I've actually been watching Superstore a lot with the wife to see Mark McKenney from Kids in the Hall in that, and I was really excited to see Scott Thompson in this. Although I think we won't see Scott Thompson again. So we had a scene from Final Destination. Basically a pole comes through the window, goes through our very nice guy, his face, and, you know, that's the end of his character. But it all goes to show you that Mad Sweeney's kind of putting the pieces together, that he, in a drunken stupor, gave the Sun Coin to Shadow Moon, and I guess that's his good luck charm. Then we go over to the salesman of some kind of Middle Eastern descent. He goes and he's waiting in the lobby for Mr. Blanding.
Howard Blandy! You mean the Howard Blandy? The Howard Blandy that masterminded the ruthless takeover of every small family-owned business in Bikini Bottom? That Howard Blandy?
He's sitting there for quite a while. Obviously, it's not going to work, so he catches a cab home. Well, so right away we get to see the gentleman that was sitting with Mr. Wednesday in, I believe, the second episode at the diner, the one with the fiery eyes. So we actually get formally introduced to the Jinn, or the Ifrit, I suppose. I'm a Magic the Gathering player, so I knew exactly what they were talking about. Little did I know, to get wishes, you know, basically a Jinn is a genie, for lack of a better term. So an Ifrit's more of a demon, so I wasn't really sure which one that he was. Because of the fiery eyes, I was thinking Ifrit, but he was and Ifrit is kind of an evil version of a Jinn. So now that you have all the knowledge of Ifrit and Jinns, you could go to your local F&M and play Magic the Gathering today. But anyway, so this particular Jinn or Ifrit, you know, he's a cabbie, he's kind of disillusioned, but he even tells the guy that he cannot grant wishes. Well, I guess wishes are harder to come by these days. So after the nice businessman pulls the wish from the nice Jinn character for like 10 minutes of sweet, sweet man love, he wakes up the next morning with a whole new lease on life. He goes over and he pulls up the pile of clothes that the nice fairy tale creature was wearing, and he looks, and it's actually now all his information. So now he owns the cab, and guess what? Dreams do come true if you're willing to. There's got to be a better way to become a cabbie. Seriously, didn't that Jinn look like Jay Chandrasekhar from Super Troopers, like Broken Lizard? I totally thought that was him. So now we're back with our two heroes to pull off the bank heist. Wednesday is trying to really convince Shadow Moon about who he is, what's going on, who Wednesday is, and trying to basically get him to believe. Well, he basically makes another wager with him. If you're not in jail by the end of this bank heist, will you believe in me? So the first walk-in, of course, like any normal, smart ex-con, would be very nervous walking around with a million cameras in the bank they're about to rob. And I like the little scene of when he's walking out, you saw an eyeball flash on the camera. Basically, Technical Boy is keeping tabs on Shadow Moon. So we get a nice hot cup of chocolate, and we get to sit down to the what I thought was a very nice back and forth about the different Jesus talks, about how many different Jesuses there are. There's a Mexican Jesus, a white Jesus, a black Jesus. And he said Jesus is doing very well for himself in the belief department, and probably all of those Jesuses are. So Mr. Wednesday tells Shadow Moon to just think about snow. He just wants to make it snow. And of course, you know, the marshmallows, I'm sure, come into play with that to help him out. So he's just basically focused on his marshmallows on the copy machine, and then he looks around, and what should have been a balmy 78 degrees wherever they were actually turned into a full-on blizzard because of Shadow Moon just really concentrating on his power. So at this point, we kind of know that Shadow Moon is kind of some weather god. Whenever he's emotionally distressed, we see clouds roll in. Now, when he's really focused, he could also call on these things willingly. So this cute little bank heist is happening, and Wednesday's this nice little security guard outside, and they do this little telephone hookup. That was all nice and well and good. Kind of unclimactic for not exactly what I thought the bank heist was going to be, which was kind of ironic. I kind of liked that it kind of went the more whimsical way, but I was kind of like, okay, it was kind of uneventful. It was just him sitting outside a bank collecting money from people because the ATM was down. Mads finally confronts Shadow Moon again, calls him a lot of "see you next Tuesdays," and demands his sun coin back. Well, Shadow Moon kind of tells him where that coin is, so he sends him back to Laura's gravesite. So while we're kind of having our closing scene of Shadow Moon and Wednesday kind of talking back and forth, just more about belief and whatnot, we get to see Mads get to Laura's gravesite very quickly. They must not have gotten too far. I thought, you know, I thought they were in Chicago, and then, you know, I thought they traveled quite a bit, and Mads is on foot, but leprechauns travel fast, apparently. He kind of exhumes Laura. As we could see, there was kind of an indent of where the coin sunk in. And guess what? We open the coffin, no one's home. Poor Mads can't catch a break. And when Shadow gets back to the hotel, it's, "How you doing, puppy? Here's your corpse bride." So, this episode, probably my least favorite episode of the 3 so far, but it had some amazing things in it as well. I can't deny that. It was also directed by David Slade. I'm coming to the conclusion that David Slade is just directing all 8 of these episodes. I'm not 100% sure, but this is definitely not a David Slade looking episode. This one was a lot more effects, a lot more stylized. When the salesperson, for lack of a name that I can't recall, was sitting down, we saw kind of a clock graphic in the background, which was kind of cool. While Shadow's kind of focusing on making it snow, the car is suddenly driving over marshmallows. While he's sitting down in the copy store, while he's again focusing on snow, the copy machine is becoming icy and snowflakes are starting to proliferate. It was a very, very dreamlike episode, which in fact Shadow even states towards the end of the episode that this all feels like a very vivid dream, where Wednesday says, "Hey, that's cool, you got the ability to dream while you're awake." It's going to be very interesting to see how Laura came back from the dead. Obviously, it has something to do with the sun coin. You know, once Mad Sweeney finds out that the sun coin kind of is in her, what's that going to do? Is he going to try to rip it out? Are we going to have another battle? Or is he just going to kind of protect her because of this? In terms of scoring this episode, I'm going to give this one right under a 4 this week. I'm going to give it a 3.8. It was definitely my least favorite episode, but that's not saying that it was a bad episode. It was actually great. There was a lot of things that I liked. Not a lot that I didn't. Just a couple of scenes went on too long. Not naming names. And not just because of that, just because that scene did seem to drag on a little bit too long. Some scenes did. A lot of the back and forth banter of just, you know, of pre-heist just kind of seemed like it could be filled with a little more things. This was the closest thing to a filler episode that we've had in season 1 of American Gods so far, but still very good all the same. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have some extremely exciting announcements coming up for this kind of spoiler season of this show. So next week, I'm going to be joined by the great folks over at the Nerd Reactor to do kind of a tandem review of episode 4 of American Gods. Can't wait for that. Check out their channel and subscribe to them. Nerd Reactor does a lot of reaction videos, also a lot of cool cosplay. videos, as well as some social experiments, which is very cool. So, Nerd Reactor next week joining me for the American Gods spoiler review. Week after that, I got a little guy named Alex Scott from The Walking Dead coming back. We're going to review something that's not Walking Dead related. Alex and I are going to sit down and pick apart episode 5 of American Gods together. So the next 2 weeks, be sure to tune in. Next week for episode 4 is with the Nerd Reactor guys, and episode 5 is with Alex Scott from The Walking Dead. It's going to be an exciting couple of weeks, guys. All gearing us up to the season finale of American Gods. So, guys, you can find me on all the social media platforms, on Twitter, @OrzovDone, on the They Said We Said Facebook group, @TheySaidWeSaid, and @TheySaidWeSaid on Instagram. So, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.